Hi, and welcome to this week's episode of the Guest List podcast. I am your host, Steve Guest. For those of you that haven't listened or tuned into this podcast before, the Guest List podcast was born out of the success of my first book, Top Bill of the Life of a Recruiter. And I was getting bombarded with questions and scenarios and situations. And if I'm honest, I was overwhelmed and couldn't really respond to everyone. So I thought, what better way to get lots of value, lots of content, share fantastic stories and key tips, tricks, motivational techniques. What better way other than to create a podcast and get far more intelligent and successful people than me speaking and sharing their journeys. So that's where the Guest List podcast has come from. Today's guest, I'm really excited and energized to be speaking to. I'm going to run through their bio and we'll get chatting as soon as possible. So today's guest, an experienced performance development specialist, a behaviour change psychologist. This person has made significant contributions to individuals, teams and organisations in the business, sports, education and voluntary sectors. Formerly an accomplished athlete, this person's speciality is inspiring their audience to improve performance by igniting the potential that lies within us all, and has the passion for enabling others to further improve their performance. Trained in motivational interviewing, positive psychology and cognitive behaviour coaching, this person has designed and delivered workshops and programs in a range of settings: government agency, recruitment, commerce, medical, education, health and care, leisure, hospitality, manufacturing, and at a range of levels, regionally, nationally, and internationally. Referred to as a thought leader in the subjects of leadership, management, and more recently, happiness and well-being. This person regularly contributes to articles and debates on such subject matter, as well as organisation strategy and implementation. Thought and action provoking delivery in front of small or multinational audiences, whether public speaking, training or facilitating. This person's style is engaging, inspirational and realistic. Working all over the world, Expressions has enjoyed having unique solutions presented on the international stage, awarded a national scholarship to America. This person studied at the University of Florida at the College for Medicine, Health and Human Performance, currently holds leadership positions in business, education and sport. Mr. Simon Thorpe, welcome along.
Thank you very much. That sounds very flash, doesn't it?
Oh, I tell you what, there's some tongue twisting moments there.
Oh, I know.
I'm glad I had that cappuccino this morning.
yeah, interesting. How are you?
I'm very well. I say first recording after Christmas.
Yes.
Trying to get all the cobwebs out the way and the gears in place.
Funny, isn't it, having sort of a week or 2 weeks off, we think we get a bit rusty, don't we?
Yeah.
We're not. We're just well rested and relaxed. It's
I think so. I say we had lots of plans for Christmas and New Year, and we ended up having a COVID house. So
did you COVID soup?
Yeah, we were isolating for.
I think you'll find quite a few of your listeners will be in the same, or were in the same situation. It seems to have been quite rife, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. And as I say, it didn't. We're all healthy and well now. It wasn't overly onerous. I think it was more the fact that we didn't get to see family and friends and do the social elements. And I suppose in many ways we're probably more rested than we would have been.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting you say that, because I mean, I personally got COVID back in December 2020, so pre-vaccine.
Yeah.
And it knocked me out for a good 10 days. I was in bed pretty much for that entire Christmas.
Oh my God.
And yeah, it took a while to recover. I'm probably not completely recovered, if I'm being truthful about it.
Yeah.
But the point I'm trying to make here is, that's just one Christmas in my entire life. A lot of people go, oh, my whole Christmas was ruined. They say, well, no, it was one Christmas.
Yeah.
Now, sure, it'd been better if you didn't have to go through that.
Yeah.
But actually, just in perspective, it's just one thing. Move on and look forward to next Christmas.
100%. I say, I actually had all the symptoms but tested negative throughout.
Did you?
My wife had COVID and our oldest son did. And my wife, when she found out and did the first test, burst into tears saying, I've ruined Christmas for everyone. And I get the point, but I was like, well, look, it is what it is.
May do amend, right?
It's the state of where we are. We deal with it. We'll have fun. We'll make good use of it. And actually it just changes what we were going to do, and it changes to something different. It's not ruined. only ruined if we make it so that it's ruined.
Yeah, very
And
much
it
so.
wasn't. We had a really good time. It was chilled. It was lots of family time. The kids got to stay home and play with their toys. We weren't jetting off and setting off to other houses and things. So
yeah, good point.
yeah.
Good family Christmas, although be it in strange times.
Yeah. But now back at work, back to reality.
Yes.
And enjoying the structure and having some proper focus.
Yeah, definitely. Me
and
too.
routine, which I really miss. So, okay, well, welcome to the show. I'm looking forward to having a more detailed chat with you. We met going back a few weeks at the REC dinner, which was lovely in London. We were very well fed and entertained.
Absolutely.
Got us talking, and obviously you've come onto the show, which is great. So, first question, and it's quite a broad spectrum, a broad question really. So, within recruitment, within sales, within the way that I imagine a lot of our listeners will be working, the environments they work in, this podcast, the centre of the podcast, is about what separates high performance from perhaps average, what separates the elite from the rest. In your experience, what would you say are perhaps some of the key traits that separate high performers from anyone else?
Yeah, absolutely. I suppose fundamentally, and it sounds a bit broad to mention this, but it's mindset.
Mm-hmm.
It's the approach you take to a situation, be it a challenge. You mentioned your wife was saying that the whole Christmas is ruined because she had COVID, and you said, well, no, it's not ruined. We've got to just think differently about it. And it's having that resilience, that mental toughness to deal with the situations that you're facing or you're faced with. So if it's, for example, a professional athlete who wants to improve their performance in an event or a sport or a tournament, it's saying, I've got to do whatever it takes to make sure I achieve that potential. If it's someone in the sales business, for example, there are 1,001 obstacles that could get in the way and probably will get in the way. So the first thing I say is be mindful of what obstacles might get in the way of you achieving what you want to achieve. Mm-hmm. Now, that could be a lifelong exercise if you're not careful, but just be clear about, look, well, that could happen, okay, and that could happen as well. Okay, they'll hit the top 5 obstacles that could get in the way. And from a behavior change psychological perspective, we then say, and if that were to happen, what could you do?
Yeah.
So you're forearmed or forewarned and prepared for, okay, if that happens, what could I do here? Myself and my team call it what ifness.
Yeah.
So what if that happened? What could you do? And what if that happened? What else could you do? And say, okay, fair enough. So it's being prepared for any eventuality that happens, not allowing external factors to knock you completely off your track.
Yeah.
It might deviate you from your track, as we've all experienced, I'm sure, in the last almost 2 years, believe it or not.
Yeah.
But it's saying, okay, things happen, you know? What are we going to do to get around it? And then the other thing really is just the grit to keep doing it and put it in. I remember once reading a quote. One of my childhood heroes was Denny Thompson, decathlete.
Yeah.
I once read a quote, and the quote was, I always train on Christmas Day because not many people do.
Yeah.
It was doing something that other people weren't doing. Because if you want to be the best in your field, you can learn from people who you look up to, admire and respect, and then do something just that bit extra.
Yeah.
And that hasn't got to be time. You know, I'm not saying work 20 hours a day. I'm saying work 8, but make sure they're a good 8, you know?
Yeah. I love that.
Make sense?
Yeah. I think I've got various thoughts that kind of ping around when you were talking through then. So it's like the 1% incremental difference, isn't it?
Correct.
It's about doing that, making that extra sales call a day to what perhaps your competitors would do. It might be doing that extra hour. It might be getting in that slightly bit earlier so you can get yourself prepared for the day. Going out and doing training on Christmas Day, that is not for the faint-hearted.
No. I haven't done it myself, to be fair. I'm not saying I've done it before, but no. Boxing Day, yes. Day, no.
I think we'll always find excuses as well, won't we? We'll always find reasons to not do something or justify why we've decided to do or not do something. And I also think in terms of thought process, I've got into the habit, and I think it's been self-imposed. I do a lot of reading, so there's probably some sort of lesson that I've learned along the way. But I quite often find myself saying it is what it is.
Yeah.
And I think the more accepting that you can become of things happen, sometimes outside of your control, sometimes within your control, that actually you can't deal with everything. You can't change certain things. Things will just happen, and you've got to face it head on and deal with it in a positive way. And I think the more times I find myself saying it is what it is, you come out more relaxed, more on a level, and thinking, okay, so what do I do now? What's the
Exactly.
solution? Where do I go?
It's interesting you say that, because we do some work, obviously, with individuals and teams and managers on stress, because it's a big topic, right?
Yeah.
And what we share with people is there's two particular camps of coping, okay? There's the problem-focused coping and the emotion-focused coping.
Yeah.
And in a very, very simplistic perspective, what if you were caught in traffic on the lovely M25 or M5 or whatever traffic route you normally take, and you think, I can't go forwards, backwards, or sideways. You look around people who are caught in the similar traffic, and some people are losing their stuff, banging steering wheels, effing and jeffing, using, shall we say, non-verbal communication hand signals. Lovely. Yeah. Now, what is that actually doing? You can't fix the problem. So I can't move my car. I can't move other cars out of my way. Therefore, I've got to have an emotion-focused coping. I can't fix this, but what can I fix? Can I have a hands-free phone call to the person I'm going to meet, or my colleagues or my family, and say, hey, guess what? I'm on the car park, call the M25. Really sorry, I'm stuck here. Shall we have the meeting now? I'm hands-free in the car. Are you okay to delay by 30 minutes? My ETA is about 30 minutes later. Or do we reschedule? Yeah. That's a emotion-focused coping way of doing something. What if you and I had a falling out at work yesterday? Can I fix the problem? I probably can by saying, Steve, cold light of day, my apologies. I said some things I didn't really mean yesterday. I'm sure you probably said the same thing. Can we iron out this crease before it becomes a tear? Yeah. So you can fix the problem. But if you can't fix the problem, you fix your approach to the problem. Yeah. And there's one element on that I wanted to touch on for a moment. There's a concept known as problems and problems about problems. Yeah. Okay. So, for example, having a sleepless night is probably not the problem. Your mind being occupied by the fact that you're falling short on your targets this month, that's the actual problem. And the sleeplessness is a problem about the problem. Now, which do you think is more common, the problems or the problems about the problems?
Oh, I think it's the problems about the problems.
100%. Yeah. And we seem to be focusing on dealing with the problems about the problems and not really fixing or dealing with the problem itself. Yeah. So we're constantly going to be treading water or fighting against many different barriers and things that get in the way. Yeah. And that's why we don't always perform as high as we can, because we're not fixing the absolute root cause of what it could be.
I love that thought process. And we don't often take the time to think about it that deeply either, do we? We just blame something, or we say something almost off the cuff. Oh, I had a rubbish night's sleep. I'm not going to perform very well today. And you've already stopped yourself at the first point.
Totally.
And you just think, today's a wipeout. I'm not going to do anything today. I'm knackered.
Well, here's a funny one for you. I was doing inset day for a school. I don't do work with many schools, but I've got 2 or 3 I love working with. Mm-hmm. And it was all on well-being, resilience, and so on. So I put something on the screen. I said, here's a phrase you've probably heard many times and probably used yourselves many times. And the phrase is, I'll worry about that later. And I said to them, why are you going to worry about it later? See what I mean? You're delaying the worry and saying, don't worry, I've got time in my diary tomorrow to add some worry. I'll do it ahead instead, right? And I mean, okay, it's words, but as you rightly said, it's the words, the things we say to ourselves that resonate with ourselves. Yeah. So rather than saying, I'll worry about that tomorrow or later, why not say, I'll deal with that tomorrow, or I'll manage that better later. Yeah. It sounds silly, but it's quite...
It's not though, is it? Words have such power. And again, I think from my own self-education and reading, you almost have to train the muscle, the thought process. And I've talked about this before in previous podcasts and with recruitment consultants. The words you use have a really significant impact on the way that you either present yourself or the way that things happen to you. So on the very simplistic basis of Simon, how are you today? And you say,
Not
oh, I'm not bad. Yeah, I'm not bad. What does that mean? You're not quite bad, but you're almost there.
Yeah.
It's set you up for a negative already. And I got into the habit, even if I didn't feel it some days, I would say I feel really good, I feel great, I feel amazing, really looking forward to today. And it's really positive, influencing words that actually meant I tended to have better days.
You know what? I love that. And there's something on our YouTube channel. We run the Happy Workshop. Okay, we were apparently the first organisation to run a Happy Workshop in the UK.
Okay.
There it is, the Happy Workshop. There you go.
Amazing.
And the first thing I say is exactly what you just said there. I said, I've greeted all of you this morning, and I've asked you how you are, and the majority of you answered in this way. Yeah, not too bad. I said, so not too bad. So normally does your life absolutely suck, but today it's just not that bad? No. What I meant was, well, say what you mean then. Say, actually, I'm doing all right. Now, don't lie and say, I feel amazing if you don't. Yeah. Because you don't. Yeah. But if you say, you know, I'm doing all right. I'm managing life. I'm getting on with things. I'm looking forward to today or whatever.
It's getting into the habit of thinking how you want to be as well. Because even on days where you feel really good and you are motivated to get into the office, I think historically I would still say I'm not too bad because it's a habit.
Yeah, of course it is.
Yeah, I'm not too bad. Yeah, I'm okay. Yeah,
yeah,
right.
And I'll get through today, see what happens tomorrow.
Exactly. I'm just waiting. I'm waiting till 5:30. I just need to go home and go to sleep. Yeah. I'm so tired.
God, 4 hours to go. Yeah, and that's the mindset. Your mindset is about getting through the day. Now, let's be clear. Occasionally, that's going to happen, all right? We're all human beings. We're fallible. We have issues and we have things we've got to deal with. Absolutely. Yeah. But if that becomes your modus operandi, once a week, once a month, 1 week every month, that's not a great place to be. And as you rightly said, it's a habit. And habits are formed when we do things again and again. And the most recent research suggests that it takes on average 66 days to change a habit.
My word.
Okay, so that's over 2 months. So we are recording this today in January, for example. So in January, you're going to be littered with people who say, new year, new me. All right, here we go. I'm going to join the gym, go running and do yoga and go on the cabbage soup diet. Please don't ever do the cabbage soup diet. It's not good for people around you.
Yeah, I was going to say.
But it's about committing to something and sticking to it and see it happen. And there's a quick thing. I'm putting something out on social media later this week about goal setting, which sounds a bit twee and a bit American, but let's be clear about this. And the same thing for work goals and high performance goals. There are two very important things to share about goal setting. The first is make sure it's set in the right way. So, for example, some people, especially this time of the year, want to get away from overeating, overindulging at Christmas and festive season drinks and all that kind of stuff and say, oh my God, I feel really heavy. My belt size has gone a bit bigger. I must really focus on this. I want to get away from feeling like that, right? Yeah. Within about 3 or 4 weeks, that feeling of self-loathing and disgust in yourself subsides. So you've achieved your goal. You don't feel as bad as you did at the beginning of January, which means the motivation goes, followed by, and we go back to normal. If you have a towards goal, I want to get towards feeling more vibrant, healthier, lighter, slimmer, whatever it might be, more successful, achieving bigger targets. The motivation carries on doing this. Not as steep, but it's more sustainable and you have greater adherence to it. So it's about making sure that you're positioning your goal in the right sense. I don't want to get away from the bottom of the league table in my targets. I want to get towards the top 5. Yeah. That has longer lasting motivation. And the second very quick thing about that, Steve, when looking at goal setting, people often, and I've seen it already on social media, my goals this year are to do this. I don't care. So what? They're your goals. And what I mean by this is don't share your goals with too many people. Because here's what happens. What if I said to you, Steve, you know what? My goal this year is to run a marathon, achieve 300K in earnings a month. You go, oh, Simon, that sounds fantastic. Good for you. All I hear is praise and adulation. I've already got some validation from an external source. I'm like, oh, great, I'm doing really well. When really I think, well, I've got to go and do it now.
Yeah.
I've got what I want to do. Instead, I might say, look, Steve, here are my goals. Could you do me a favor? Could you check in with me once a month and just ask me how I'm doing on my goals? Therefore, there's a commitment with someone else, and I don't want to let you down. I don't want to let myself down, but I don't want to let you down.
Yeah.
So that kind of jogging.
It's the accountability, isn't it?
Exactly.
It's the ownership, and
there it is.
Again, I set lots of goals, and again, I've talked about this on podcasts by the way of I have various sections, and I do it between Christmas and New Year. I have done every year for coming up, so this will be the 8th year now, and I actually really enjoy it. It's on a spreadsheet. I love my spreadsheets. I update it yearly, and I've got all the details from years gone by, and they cover family life, leisure, business, finance, all the little aspects that I know I have to have a little element of each to feel like I've done what I've needed to do during the year. I struggle in parts because I'm very much work focused a lot of the time and saving for the future. My wife keeps me on track on the fact that we still have to live for today, so it's a good barometer.
Yeah, why not?
But I share certain elements to keep me accountable, but the majority, they're mine. They're mine to achieve. And I think with goals, I like to think about it's the fact that you keep turning up. You're not going to achieve your goals every day. No. You're going to have good and bad days. You're going to be successful some, not successful others. But actually, if you just keep chipping away.
Exactly. That tenacity, that commitment to keep moving forwards. Well, first of all, keep moving. Okay. And ideally keep moving forward. Sometimes you've got to take a back step to go forward for. But it's about, as I said before, that commitment to keep going in the right direction.
Yeah. And
be accountable.
Yeah. Accountability for me has been one of the biggest education pieces, because I'm quite a reserved person. I like to keep a lot of things to myself, and I've got better over time in terms of sharing and having discussions. But I think until I was first held accountable, which was probably 2015, I reckon, other than having like managers and various directors that you might report to, having the accountability where the goals are important to me and not necessarily an external source, is really valuable. Yeah. And people often shy away from it because it's the ability to perhaps be embarrassed or not achieve certain things, and then you've got to go and say, look, I haven't done it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So they don't do it at all.
No. So if I don't try, I can't fail, right? It sounds bizarre. If I don't try, I can't fail.
Yeah.
So you don't even start. You put it on paper and go, oh, yeah. But if I don't put it on paper, it's a goal somewhere in here that I might do before I die. Okay. But actually, it's making that commitment. And I can only imagine, and I'm actually in awe of you because I want to write a book myself at some point. I'm going to get myself in that discipline to go and do it. But I imagine when you wrote your first and then second book, it was the discipline and the commitment to stick to it in a certain time frame and deadline. Yeah. Otherwise, you could spend 10 years writing a book and say, oh, I'll publish it one day.
Yeah. And so many people do. So many people I've spoken to have said, I'm going to write a book, or I started writing a book, or it's on my tick list of things to do. And if I'm honest, I was there. I started writing a book and I stopped. I had a 6-7 month gap of doing nothing because work took over, and I lost the impetus and the momentum to keep adding pen to paper. And I got to Christmas 2018, and I think I'd wrote about 15, 20,000 words. I was told 35, 40,000 words makes a book.
Okay.
Got to Christmas and I thought, do you know what? I just need to get this done. How am I going to get it done? What's the best way? I found a route to get the book self-published, contacted a person and said, I need to get this book done. What's a realistic timescale to get another 15, 20,000 words done? Can we put a date in the diary? We agreed, I think it was July 2019 to have the final manuscript, 2 to 3 months to get it through the publishing route. And we should have it on sale before Christmas. That was the plan.
Wow.
But because I'd agreed a date,
it
was specific, it was timed, it was managed. It did mean I was getting up at 5 a.m. every morning to get to the office for 5:30 to do an hour's writing before the consultants came in. But it was a way of getting it done, and I was accountable.
But the same thing, training on Christmas Day, because other people don't do it. You getting up at 5 a.m. almost every morning, that was a commitment.
Yeah.
And that goes back to the whole thing we're talking about. If you really want to go and do something, I mean, really want to go and do it, not just stay because it sounds good, then no one's going to do it for you.
Yeah.
Sure, draw upon help, assistance, guidance, coaching, call it what you like, from external sources. But do what you said you're going to do, right?
Yeah.
You made a commitment to yourself. Now, the only person you're letting down is you.
Yeah.
And if you're okay with that, that concerns me, because you're saying you're not important enough.
Yeah.
You know, whether you're a manager, a recruiter, in any sector, in any business, if you're a family person, a father, a mother, a brother, a sister, an aunt, an uncle, you have made a commitment. And to break that commitment without sounding like some sort of hair product advert, are you worth it? Then clearly you are. Obviously, I can't talk about that myself, but you know, are you worth it? You've made a commitment to yourself, so honor that commitment.
Yeah.
I say the same thing with recruiters and managers. If I was phoning you up and I made a commitment to come back to you on how we're doing, we're trying to fulfill your job vacancies, and you're avoiding my phone calls, I said, look, Steve, I made a commitment to follow up. I'm doing what I said I was going to go and do.
Yeah.
And the amount of clients come back and say, oh God, yeah, sorry, I've been avoiding you. I don't mean to. Because I made a commitment to come back to you.
Yeah.
So are you going to allow me to fulfill that commitment?
Yeah. It's so
it's
true.
Not selfish. It's true, isn't it?
16 years ago, when I started recruiting, I made I don't know what it's called, I suppose a way to work by and live by, and something that was stayed true to me consistently. One of the biggest pain points in recruitment is recruiters go missing. They go and see a client, they take a job spec, you never hear from them again.
Yeah.
Candidates, you get a CV, they send the CV, I never heard from them again. And this was a consistent message. So I made a commitment, as you've just said, to always do what I say I'm going to do. Whether it's good, bad, or indifferent news is irrelevant. It's the ability to say, if I'm going to call you on Thursday at 4, guess what? I'm going to call you on Thursday at 4. Whether I've got the right information or not is not the point. The point is you become reliable, consistent, trustworthy.
Correct.
And people prefer that than the person that they never heard from again, because they couldn't deliver on the promises that they set out.
Why do recruiters get a bad name? Why do any sales people get a bad name?
Because they go missing.
Exactly. You know, I don't trust you. You know, or if you don't trust me, you're not going to buy from me. I can't fulfill your needs.
Yeah.
So it's so fundamentally simple, isn't it? Because there's no kind of golden nugget to take. It's just, like you said, do what you say you're going to do. And it reminds me, many years ago, I was told I saw a definition of integrity. Many people say they've got integrity, but if you ask them what it means, they go, well, honesty, I think. I don't know. This is the definition. Integrity is doing what you say you're going to do, even when you're not being watched.
Yeah.
It's that last bit, isn't it?
Yeah.
I said I would do it. Therefore, I'm going to own that commitment, and I will do it because I promised you and myself I would do it. If I don't do that, either I've got to tell you why I can't, or I've broken that trust barrier or that trust relationship.
Yeah.
And that's it. You're gone now. Forget it.
It's strange, isn't it, how we kind of set ourselves almost up for that. I'm talking from having been a buyer for a few years, so I dealt with salespeople that consistently let me down.
Sure.
I've been on the receiving end, and it's the most frustrating thing on the planet. If I had someone ring up and say, do you know what? I said I'd get you some CVs in 3 days and I haven't been able to do it, but this is the reason why.
There you go.
I've spoken to 3,000 people and they're all not interested in working here because of X. That's good feedback. It's not nice feedback, but it's good because you know the reasons why. And you can adapt to it. But I think as sales staff, whether it's a British thing, I don't know, whether it's just too honest, whether it's admitting failure head on, and that's difficult to do, or a collection of everything else that goes with it. I think I've learned over the years that actually I'd just rather keep the communication and work hard, be honest, have integrity, do things even when people think it's not happening, but they get to know my approach and the way that I work. And for me, that separated me from the norm.
Yeah, and it is. You're absolutely right. It's our perspective of failure. no, not many people like failing, and that's understandable and obvious. You know, no one wants to go each day saying, I failed again today. But without getting too twee about this, you know, how the hell do you know if you're succeeding if you haven't failed?
Mm.
You know, you have to fail to learn, to get better. And it's all part of resilience.
Yeah.
Being more resilient doesn't mean bad things don't happen to you. It just means you can manage them a lot better.
Yeah.
And you accelerate. And I personally believe in bouncing forwards, not bouncing back. So if you bounce back, you go back to your original dimension, shape, form, whatever. And that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah. But bouncing forwards means I've gained something from this situation.
Yeah.
That was a massive failure point for me, but actually I've now learned that didn't work. Therefore, I can now do this. And you can apply that to a golf swing, to a sales conversation, to managing an individual, to running a business, to writing a book, to anything. Now, of course, if you make the same mistakes more than twice, then something's not being learned, is it? But we have to almost celebrate every single experience we have. And one thing I talk a lot with people, especially in recruitment and sales and managing, is every single day before you clock off or log off your system, just spend a few minutes either individually or with your team and say, what have I actually achieved today? Not how many emails did I send, how many CVs did I find, how many candidates did I contact, but what have I actually achieved? And if it's the fact, well, that went really, really bad, but I've achieved the learning that that wasn't the best way to approach this situation. So tomorrow I'll be better.
Yeah. I love
that. Sounds really simple.
Yeah. Where do you think we inherit the fear of failure from? Do you think it's kind of born into us through school and the fact that everything's about getting full marks? If you get one wrong, the focus is on, well, why have you got that wrong? We learned that. Why you should have known that one. It's not about the 29 you got right at 30. Do you think that's where it comes from? Is that the...
It has been traditionally. It's been through pressures from peers, pressures from parents and families. You mentioned that, for example, how many times do we as parents look at our child's report card and go, oh, AAAC, AAAB? Well, that's great, but what's the C about? You know, as opposed to, oh, brilliant, got an A, an A, an A, and a B. Wow, this is fantastic. So there's the whole kind of pressure from that perspective. There's also, schools did do that because schools were always measured on how many people, and this is to some degree, how many people they get to achieve great grades. That's how as they attract other customers, other parents. Now, quite recently, and I'm so glad they've done this, many schools now are adopting the growth mindset approach. So, for example, a real simple example, I may have been as a child going to my teacher saying, Miss, I'm no good at maths. And I was once told, absolute God's honest truth. My teacher said to me, stick to sports, Simon, maths isn't your thing.
Yeah, you know academic, Simon. Yeah.
No. And the thing is, that tends to infiltrate your mind to think, maybe I can't do any job that requires problem solving, mathematical ability of calculating or working things out. Yeah. Therefore, I'll go and become a sports person. Now, you've got to work those things out being a sports person as well, by the way, but actually that's very limiting. So the growth mindset, the teacher would say, no, Simon, you're not good at maths yet, but we'll find a way where you can become better. Now, I'm not suggesting you'll be a mathematician or a maths teacher or an accountant in your future, but you will be able to master part of this maths and become better at doing it. But the fundamental thing, Steve, is because we typically as humans have an average of a 9-to-1 negativity bias.
Bloody hell. Okay.
It's scary, isn't it? Now, there's various bits of research that says it's 6-to-1, 8-to-1, but average is about 9-to-1, which basically means we are more predisposed to think of the negative than the positive. So, for example, when you run your workshops, when we run our workshops, if you got a evaluation form at the end of the program, and there's a box that says what was great about it, what you learned about it, what we've done, what impacts it had, could we improve it, or how can we get better at it? What do we go to first? That box, right?
Yeah.
Didn't like the food. Didn't like the. And we focus on that, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not saying we ignore it, no, we have to focus on this. But actually someone says it's revolutionized how I manage people. We've become more profitable. I've rebuilt relationships in the workplace. Wow, this is great stuff. Sure, I'll change the food next time. Okay. But the thing is, the 9-to-1 negativity bias is born out of our prime motivation to have self-survival.
Yeah. Self-preservation.
Preservation, that's it.
Yeah.
But actually, it hasn't evolved better in our brains since we were way back in cave people's language. And actually, it's now become worse because we play those movies of the worst case scenario in 3D surround sound 4K in our heads.
Yeah.
And the part of the brain, the amygdala, says, don't do that.
Yeah.
Because that's going to go really bad. No, it might go really bad. What if? What ifness? And what if that were to happen? What could you do?
Yeah.
So that the whole thing is paying attention to what's going on in here, then the rest of it follows suit, be it good, bad, or ugly, right?
It's so true. And I've, as I say, talking from a personal journey, I was very much the reserved, quiet, unassuming, didn't take any risks, didn't want to put myself out there. And I think the turning point for me was having children, where actually you're going into work, you're doing things for someone else and for the ability for them to have greater opportunity as they grow up. So my view was, actually, I'll take all the risks head on. I'll hit things first because I want to be able to pass on lessons, life lessons, business lessons, whatever they might be to my kids. So I'm more willing to fall flat on my face and fail every day because I don't necessarily want my kids to have to go through that potential, although it's a good lesson. And I will still tell them to go and give it a go, even if they don't succeed, because it's helped me. But I think the more things I can do, the more prepared I am, the better person I've become. But actually, the more willing I am to, I suppose, see it as a journey, and it's a longer process. So bad day today, good day tomorrow, bad shot at golf. It's just one of many shots. Bad trade if I'm trading, one trade out of 1,000. It's all these various points that actually no one thing really kind of has a huge impact.
Absolutely.
I can find a potential solution that comes from it.
Find something you can do with it. I've done some work with traders one-to-one and in groups, and I was working with some traders, and they just lose their stuff for obvious reasons when they trade. And there's one guy who I was coaching, a great trader, very successful, but he hadn't been on holiday for 3.5 years pre-pandemic. Okay. Because he'd book an all-inclusive, massive, expensive holiday, and 2 days or 3 days before would say, no, I can't go, so I might miss a really important trade. I know, right? And I said, look, is that something you want to continue? Because it's not my job to say to him, you've got to change that. It's up to him, right? And he said, I want to change it. I said, right, let's have a conversation. Let's figure out ways in which you can be at peace with yourself and say, I need time to press reset. I need time to refresh myself to go back and smash the next trade. And there's trades every day, every week, every month.
That's it. Right? I mean, I was taught every trade is 1 in 1,000. So, okay, you might miss one. Okay, one might be a loser, one might be a winner, but ultimately they keep coming. So the ability to switch off and take some time out is always there. Yes, you might miss a trade. You might miss the next biggest losing trade.
Correct. Absolutely.
It's not necessarily a banked winner, is it?
No.
And
if you don't look after yourself, it's going to work.
Yeah, I think for me, my training within trading it was one of the hardest things I've done. Trading FX, commodities and everything else is really difficult. Psychologically, it's one of the most difficult things I've ever done. Seeing a trade winning and being so many pips up, to take a phone call, go in a meeting room, come back and you've lost.
Yeah.
And you're like that. How is it lost? I was X amount of pips up. Is really difficult. But actually, from I suppose, a mindset perspective, the ability to get through that and understand that actually it's one trade in 1,000. Some will win, some will lose. Once you press buy or sell, you are no longer in control other than managing your risk.
Yeah. And it is that. It's about, it sounds really simple because it is. It's called putting things into perspective.
Yeah.
Does this one trade affect my life? Does this one lost client opportunity affect my life? And in the same way, does this one success fulfill my life? Probably not. It's one episode. Think of your life as a box set. Every box set's got a dodgy episode, hasn't it? Okay. And occasionally we have a dodgy episode, or that storyline didn't really, that was a bit weak. Okay, fine, let's get better next time. And think of it as, you know, your life is a massive box set, and the story is going to go fantastically well towards the whole process, but you create the script along the way. And if you want to have a fantastic ending of that box set, change the script along the way, make sure it's the best storyline possible.
Yeah. And that's it. And adapt. That's
it's
part of the fun. And I think the more accepting I've become of certain things, whether they're in my control or outside of it, actually the more, I suppose, content I am with how things progress and where they are. It's not going to win every day.
It's about being happy, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. And I've had to find balance over the years, and I've been perhaps too committed in certain areas at certain points. And you need to be brought back down to earth by family, wife, friends, colleagues, peers, mentors, mentees, accountability partners, whatever it might be. But I think as long as you see that logical continued progression in whatever it is you're looking to achieve, it's a good place to be.
Do you know, the one thing I mention this a lot with happiness and talking about this stuff, the biggest challenge of happiness is comparison. So comparison is the biggest issue when it comes to happiness. So if I'm comparing myself with yourself, I feel I have to be as good as you, or how I perceive how good you are. And actually I'm constantly never happy with who I am and what I've achieved. Now, I'm massively in favor of ambition, high performance, being the best you can be, of course, but be happy with who you are and be good. And otherwise you go back to this thing about perhaps saying that's all really good, but that isn't so great. What do you do about this? When it comes to, especially in recruitment and sales type organizations, you're on a monthly commission structure many times, sometimes quarterly, but mainly monthly. So what happens at the end of the month, you go, fantastic, you've achieved that target, well done. So next month, your target is now this plus 10%. So, oh my God, do you know how hard I worked in that last month? And the same happens at the annual appraisals. God, I hate those things. You know, Steve had a fantastic year, well done. You've achieved your £1 million target. I'm so impressed, well done. So next year, it's 1,020,000. Whoa, wait a minute. You know, so that adulation, that praise, that recognition, that appreciation for 365 days work is less than 1 minute. Before you get another
2 sentences
target.
maybe.
Correct. Now, I'm not saying we should, you know, ride the coattails of that like we have done with the England football team winning the 1966 World Cup. Get over it. But it is about saying that's great. Now, what I'd be saying to you is, Steve, how did you achieve that £1 million? What is it you did? What actions did you take? Well, I got up at 5 o'clock every morning. Okay, did that work for you? Great. We're now going to build your success formula. And what that you've done the last year, could you apply to the coming year to continue that success principle? Otherwise, you're starting from zero again and going, oh, right, here we go again, zero. Soul destroying, isn't it?
It's so, again, I think it's thinking along, I'm about self-improvement every year, whether that be in all aspects. So what I've achieved last year, I do want to go into this year and improve. It's just my natural thought process. But I don't sit there and say, okay, well, I did, I don't know, 200 grand last year. I'm going to do 250 this year. Let's see what happens. It's not about that. It's about how did I achieve the 200 grand to achieve 250 grand? What can I implement? What are those extra little bits that I can do? Could I come in half an hour earlier? Could I make one extra sales call? Could I push to do 12 interviews a week, not 10?
Yeah, absolutely.
What would that add? What's the compound effect over 12 months that I can achieve by doing something different every day? Is that going for a run in the morning before I get into work so I feel more energized?
But you see, what you've just done there is something that people don't feel they have the ability to go and do. And that is pressing pause and looking at how they've done, what they've done, and why they've done. all too often we see, oh, I haven't got time for that, I'm so busy. Yeah, but busy doing what? Busy probably going in the wrong direction, busy probably duplicating effort, busy probably making mistakes and not recognizing them, busy being busy. And often it's about having the discipline to press pause for a moment and say, wait a minute, let's check my compass. Yeah. Am I going still in the right direction?
Yeah. In my experience, a lot of the time, it's people will come in and they will say, I'm going to do better this year. I'm going to improve this year. I'm going to do X this year, but don't have the understanding of either the stats or the specifics behind what will get them there. It's just, I'm going to do an extra 30 grand this year. Well, okay, where's the 30 grand coming from? And what are you going to do extra? Yeah, I'm just going to put my fees up. Okay. Yeah. That might work, maybe. Yeah. Proportionately across the year, maybe. It might mean you lose some clients. What happens then? And
what if?
It's the understanding of how do I get to that end goal and what is it that's going to make that improvement? What do I need to do, change, assess, add in, remove that will allow me to do it? And I have lots of conversations with very ambitious salespeople and recruiters, and the intent is there. The wantingness to do better is there. But sometimes just taking that element of time out to say, okay, how have I done this year? What have I done? How have I done it? Where have I got to? What do I need to do to add in to get the improvement for next year or this year?
It's that analysing, isn't it? It's that pressing pause to think about what's working and what's not working. You mentioned you do something every end of the year for the next year coming up. I do a similar thing, and I'll send it out to your listeners if they want it. It's a free exercise to go and download and use. It's called a New Year's goals exercise, but it's not just writing goals. What it very simply is 4 quadrants. The first quadrant is, what successful experience did I have in the last year? And that can be across personal, social, professional, all those different aspects. So the second box is, what unsuccessful experience did I have? Always start with positive, because otherwise you get to the 9-to-1 negatively biased and then you're in it. And the third box, I think, is the most important box, lessons learned. Yeah. What have I learned about that? Well, I learned that if I do get up and go exercise in the morning, my day is beautiful for the rest of the day. I'm tired, but it's a good day. Yeah. If I don't fulfill the commitments I make to myself, I beat myself up. Aha, right. These are lessons to learn. And of course, the fourth quadrant is your goals for the coming year, personal, professional. And you break it down even further to financial and so on, which is great. Yeah. So you customize it to how you want to customize it, but just spending that bit of time saying, why did that work? Yeah. And we do the same in organizations. You know, you go into organizations, and especially recruitment. I say, when's the last time you had a meeting with your team just and only to focus on why it was so good last month? Yeah. Doesn't happen.
People don't do it.
But I bet you meet if it's gone really bad the previous month and someone's going to get fired or bollocked or whatever it might be. Yeah. Oh, if it's gone really well, it's called a pre-ship inquiry. Why did that work?
Yeah, yeah. What do we do? How do we do it?
That's awesome, mate. You rocked. Why did you rock? Was it a fluke? No, what I did was this. Wow. You're now building your success formula. Yeah. If you can replicate and scale that, whether it's an individual running a desk, whether it's a team, a division, or a whole company, focus on your success principles and just work the hell out of them. Yeah. Because it's working for you.
It's just so important, isn't it?
It's so simple.
And we don't spend enough time asking why or how. Yeah. And I did a podcast episode a few weeks ago where a consultant I work with, they're doing really well, and they'd had a bit of a blip, and the message was, Steve, I really just don't feel motivated today. What can I do to get over this hurdle? And I said, okay, well, just answer this question. Why are you doing what you do? Yeah. And he won't mind me sharing this, but his answer was, oh, you put me on the spot a little bit there. I'm like, what do you mean? Why are you doing what you do? Why are you getting up every morning to go into work to do what you do? And I sent them away to go and have a think and a rethink about what is the why that motivates and moves them to get up every morning to be successful. If you can't answer that in a heartbeat, you really need to go back and really think about why you're doing everything you do.
Absolutely.
Because until you can do that, you won't get over that hurdle, because you'll find every reason not to do something because the why isn't strong enough to motivate you to get over the crappy days, the dark mornings, the rainy, cold winter, whatever, to go and achieve what you set out to achieve. And for me, that is the fundamental foundation for everything and anything within high performance and sales and what we do. Because without that, you will just fall apart, in my experience.
That is absolutely spot on. And it's so simplistic when we say it out loud, because it is. And actually, none of this stuff is rocket science. Only one thing that's rocket science, and that is rocket science, right? Yeah. Everything else is pretty straightforward if you apply it. And it reminds me of something that we came up with many years ago, and that's this. Once you know what it is you want, so identify what success means for you. And it could be a loving family, it could be a marriage, it could be relationships, it could be earning a certain amount of money, whatever it is, whatever goals you have in your life, that you get, okay? Once you do that, the question I ask every single person to ask them as many times as they can in a day, does my behavior right now help me achieve those results over a period of time?
Yeah.
Sounds really stupid, but or not. And here's the really important part about this. If the answer is yes, crack on. Good job. Keep going. You're on the right track. If the answer is no, Steve, there's only two things you can do if the answer is no. The first thing you can do is downgrade the results you want. Okay? The second thing you can do is change your behavior. But the problem is, most people we work with, and it's a very human thing, is they want this, but don't want to change their behavior. Lose a stone in body weight, but I keep it in pizza and cream cakes. What do you think? No. I've got to either downgrade my stone to maybe a couple of pounds or stop eating pizza and cream cakes. Simple. If you want to think, make sure your behavior is aligned to the results you want. And that sounds, again, sorry for being so simplistic, but it is so simple. You've got to spend time every day. Yeah, keep it simple.
I'm completely on board with that. And I think we as human beings like to try and overcomplicate and question and do various things that actually
always
stop us from achieving what we need to achieve. Are you still there? The signal's gone a bit rubbish.
Absolutely. And these are the obstacles. Yep. Okay, I'll pause. Back on? Yeah,
just pause and say, signal's just gone a bit crap. We can edit this bit out anyway.
Yeah, sure.
I think it's my end, not your end.
Okay.
Just give it 30 seconds.
Yeah, let me know.
Okay. We'll start going again. I'll just make a note that we need to edit a little bit out. So, okay. So obviously lots of changes, lots of things impacting over the last couple of years with COVID and pandemics and changes in working habits and things. What do you see as the biggest challenges in terms of the changes that has perhaps brought about?
I think it's thinking differently. And again, that sounds really simple, but thinking differently, because some things that we were doing pre-pandemic are probably still fit for purpose today, especially in recruitment. But also in recruitment, there's a whole lot of stuff that isn't.
Yeah.
You know, the previous ways of working may not fulfill the objectives that you want now in the current hybrid era we're working in. And let's be very clear about the hybrid era. We don't know what it's going to look like.
Yeah.
We haven't experienced it like this before, which in one way is exciting because every day's a school day, we learn something new each time. Yeah. It's also bloody annoying and frustrating because we can't have stability, because we're vulnerable to changes happening in the last minute.
Yeah.
But as long as we're all working effectively to make sure we achieve something, then we're okay.
Yeah.
I was doing some work with an organization, and he asked me what my view was on hybrid working away from home. And I said, well, my only view is whatever's right for the organization and the individuals. And he said, well, I've done a bit of research. In the last 3 months, when my sales guys work from home, they're on average 30% less productive than when they're in the office with each other.
Okay.
So yeah, that's quite a common situation, because especially in a sales environment, it's a vibrant environment. You're bouncing off each other, the old-fashioned ringing a bell, seriously, so 1980s. But we're sort of bouncing off, and we're standing up on the phone and all those kind of great things. If you're working from home in your back bedroom,
it's difficult.
It's weird, right?
Yeah.
Now, of course, safety is important, and we're currently experiencing a different wave of what's going on. But unfortunately, it's that boring poster: keep calm and carry on.
It is what it is. Yeah.
It is what it is. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
So how do we get through this? Because the world cannot stop because there's another obstacle in the way. It's a big obstacle, but it's just an obstacle.
Yeah.
So how do we work through it?
And how do we find the opportunities and not rest on the fact that this is just stopping us from doing something?
But be open to opportunities. Be open to the fact that what we did previously may not be the right thing to do now. And we've got to open our minds to the opportunity of change, progression, and sustainability.
Yeah.
Because if we don't change, we might not be here this time next year.
Yeah.
Which is not a great thing to say, but it's a real thing to say, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it's a stark warning, isn't it, in the fact that you need to adapt to changing times, whether that's individually or business.
Absolutely.
Because we all want to survive, we all want to prosper. So think about how you can adapt and use it to your advantage, and not just sit there and wait for something to happen.
Good luck with that.
Yeah.
It always happens, does it?
Yeah. Okay. So if there was one single piece of advice that you would like to pass on to the listeners, is that one lesson that perhaps could have potentially the biggest impact, what would that look like? What would that be?
I think it's something I mentioned earlier, and it's so simple again. Make sure your behavior is aligned to the results you want.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Make sure what you're currently doing or what you plan to do is aligned to what you say you want to achieve in any aspect of life. And then do what the hell you've got to do to keep on that track. Keep doing it. There's a couple of things. I wear sometimes T-shirts with slogans on them just to be provocative, because I like being provocative. Yeah. And a print company years ago made me some mini T-shirts. Tiny little T-shirts. How cool are they? And one of the quotes I like, I've got 2 or 3 of these. This is a good one. Nothing is good or bad, but thinking makes it so.
Right. Love it.
That's a Shakespearean quote.
Yeah.
This is not new stuff. No. It's been going on since the dawn of time, Yeah. Another one, I love this one as well. Sure it is, but what are you doing about it?
I love it.
It is what it is.
Honestly.
And my favourite quote is one of my quotes. I hate to be self-quoting here, but here's one.
Yeah.
And I wear this T-shirt with pride. Not this one, it's too small, but it's this.
Yeah.
Do it or don't do it. Just don't whinge about it, okay? If you want to be successful in whatever aspect of your life, what are you doing? There's so many things that can knock you off your track.
Yeah.
So many people will tell you can't do it. Don't be one of those people telling yourself you can't do it.
Yeah. 100%. Love that. Okay. Well, look, it's been an absolute pleasure. I've really enjoyed talking to you.
Thank you.
If our listeners want to get in touch with you, they want to come and find you, where's the best place to?
LinkedIn, very simply, just my name, Simon Thorpe, at Simon Thorpe on LinkedIn. Love to chat. I put a few provocative posts out like you and I both do, which is always good fun. Don't mind having an argument every now and again, to discussion every now and again.
A debate, yeah.
So yeah, that's the best place to get hold of us. And of course, if anyone out there is in recruitment, you and I are going to be working together a bit more over the coming year with our affiliation with the REC.
Yeah, looking forward to that.
That'd be great. And working with each other. So yeah, we've got a management program going on. You've got a recruitment program going on. So get in touch with us via the REC as well.
Yeah. When's your? I think yours is it
First of February, so really soon.
only a few weeks away now?
Yeah, it is. It's a management academy program to help recruiters who are managing be better at managing, not just better at recruitment.
That's fantastic. And that is, I say, in my experience, the ability to have perhaps top performing consultants, top billing consultants that then progress into managers or leaders is a really difficult transition, because you go from the expectation of managing a desk and a business individually to then trying to motivate staff to work on a similar path to you.
Absolutely.
It's quite difficult.
I would suggest that managing bundles of hormones and emotions is the hardest job in the world.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
Genuinely.
Yeah.
Because they're different. And we've got to be amateur psychologists as a manager to find out what makes people tick and what ticks them off. And don't tell me it's money, because it isn't.
No. This is a completely different topic and we've kind of digressed a bit, but my own management and leadership experience, you learn through experience and going through processes, but the ability to know what motivates individuals from a person one-to-one perspective is one of the most valuable lessons I ever had. Knowing whether you can kind of have a bit of a kind of shouting match with someone to say, look, you need to pull your socks up, works for some, but actually demotivates others.
Yeah.
Finding what's at the core to motivate someone was one of my best lessons.
That is a whole different podcast in its own sense. But it is a brilliant podcast, because you're absolutely right. And I'm going to kind of leave you on a bit of a cliff edge here. One of the things we say on the management program is we can't motivate people.
Yeah.
People are self-motivated. And we as managers have to create the right conditions which enables people to perform tasks willingly to the best of their ability.
Love it. What a great statement to end this week's episode. Simon, it's been an absolute pleasure.
Likewise. Good talking to you as always.
All right. See you soon.
Take care.